My mother forgot to hang up the phone, and I heard the truth she had been hiding behind sweet voices for years. Not a small truth. Not the kind of careless sentence a tired parent says in anger and regrets later. This was the kind of truth that sits comfortably in a room because it has lived there for a long time. I had just finished telling her I would help pay for my brother Marcus's business debt again. $42,000. Another emergency. Another last time. Another family crisis that somehow always arrived wearing Marcus's name and looking toward my bank account. My mother cried on the phone. "Naomi, please. Your brother is drowning. He is so ashamed. Your father has not slept. I don't know what we would do without you." That sentence used to melt me. I don't know what we would do without you. It made me feel needed. And because I had spent most of my life confusing being needed with being loved, I said yes. I said I would transfer the money the next morning. I said Marcus did not have to call me. I said Mom should stop crying. I said I understood. Then she said, "God bless you, baby," and I thought the call had ended. It had not. I placed my phone on the kitchen island, still connected to the Bluetooth speaker, and turned toward the sink to wash my coffee cup. That was when I heard my mother's voice again. But different. Not soft. Not crying. Not grateful. Flat. Almost irritated. She said yes, my mother said. My father's voice came from somewhere near her. Of course she did. Then Marcus laughed. Not a happy laugh. A lazy, cruel one. "I told you she would. Naomi always needs to feel important." My hand froze around the cup. My mother sighed. She acts strong, but deep down she's still desperate for us to need her. My father grunted. Well, at least being lonely finally became useful. The cup slipped from my hand and hit the sink. No one on the other end heard. Or if they did, they ignored it. Marcus said, "She has that big house and nobody in it. Might as well make her money useful." My mother laughed softly. Then she said the sentence that changed my life. "That $1 million house is all she has to make herself feel successful. Poor thing. She is still a loser where it really matters." A loser. My mother called me a loser. Not a stranger. Not a jealous cousin. Not an enemy. My mother. The same woman who sat in my living room every Christmas and told guests, "Naomi has done so well." The same woman who took pictures in my garden and posted captions about blessings. The same woman who asked me to host family dinners because my house was more comfortable. The same woman who slept in my guest room, ate from my table, and cried into my shoulder whenever Marcus's life collapsed again. She called me a loser, where it really mattered. I stood there in my kitchen, staring at my reflection in the dark window. Behind me, the house was quiet. Too quiet. 5 bedrooms. White walls. A wide staircase. A garden I had planted myself. A chef's kitchen I barely used, because most nights I ate leftovers at the island after work. A library full of books no one in my family ever asked about. A guest wing my parents used more than I did. A house worth over $1 million. A house I bought at 35 because I thought success would finally make them proud. But through the speaker, my family was laughing at it. Laughing at me. Marcus said she should sell it and buy something smaller, use the difference to help family. My father said, "Don't joke, that may not be a bad idea." My mother replied, "She won't. That house is her trophy. Without it, what does she have?" I looked around slowly. The marble counter. The expensive lights. The framed family photos I had paid a professional to take because my mother said we needed better pictures. The large dining table where Marcus sat at the head, last Thanksgiving though it was my home. The house that had become a stage where my family came to enjoy comfort while quietly pitying the woman who paid for it. Then my mother said, "Anyway, I'll call her tomorrow and tell her Marcus cried when he heard she was helping. That will make her send it faster. Something inside me went still. Not angry. Not yet. Still. A cold, clean stillness. I walked back to the phone, picked it up and said, "No need to call tomorrow." Silence. Complete silence. Then my mother whispered, "Naomi." I looked at the broken cup in the sink. Yes. My father said nothing. Marcus said nothing. My mother's voice shook. "Baby, how long have you been there?" I breathed slowly. "Long enough." "Naomi, wait." "No." "Baby, that was not." It was exactly what it was. Marcus finally spoke. "Naomi, don't be dramatic." I almost smiled. There he was, still trying to control the room after being caught inside it. I said, "Marcus, the money is canceled." His voice rose. "What?" "The 42,000, canceled." My mother gasped. "Naomi, please don't punish your brother because of a misunderstanding." I laughed once. It sounded strange in my own kitchen. A misunderstanding. My father finally spoke. "Naomi, calm down." "No, I have been calm for years. That was the problem." My mother began crying again. But now I could hear it differently. Not grief. Strategy. "Baby, please. You know I didn't mean it like that. You called me a loser." I was frustrated. "No, Mom, you were comfortable." That stopped her. I continued. "You were comfortable because you thought I was gone." Silence again. Then my father said, "This family has said many things in private. Do not act like you are perfect." I closed my eyes. That was my father. When guilt entered the room, he opened a courtroom. I said, "You are right. I am not perfect. I am also not paying Marcus's debt." Marcus snapped, "You think you're better than us because of a house." "No," I said softly. "I think I bought a house hoping you would finally see me, and tonight I found out you only saw square footage." My mother whispered, "Naomi." I ended the call. Then I stood in the silence of my $1,000,000 home, holding the phone in my hand, and for the first time, I did not feel rich. I felt awake. Before I continue, tell me where you are watching from tonight, and if you have ever heard what people really say about you when they think you are no longer listening, stay with this story. Because sometimes the forgotten phone call becomes the key that unlocks the cage you did not know you had decorated. I did not come from money. That matters because my family later acted like my success had fallen from the sky and landed unfairly in my lap. We grew up in a small house with a roof that leaked during heavy rain and a front door that needed to be lifted slightly before it would close. My father, Leonard Bennett, worked as a supervisor at a shipping warehouse. My mother, Patricia, worked part-time at a school office and full-time managing everyone's emotions. Marcus was the firstborn son. That title carried more power in our house than any degree or paycheck. When Marcus made mistakes, my parents called them lessons. When I made mistakes, they called them warnings. If Marcus forgot chores, he was tired. If I forgot, I was irresponsible. If Marcus failed a class, he needed encouragement. If I got a B, I was losing focus. If Marcus shouted, he was under pressure. If I spoke firmly, I was disrespectful. I learned early that the easiest way to receive love was to be useful. So I became useful. I filled forms, cooked meals, cleaned the house, tutored younger cousins, helped my mother with bills, reminded my father about appointments, typed Marcus's essays, ironed his shirts for interviews, covered for him when he missed deadlines. By 16, I was less a daughter and more a backup system. People praised me for being mature. I did not know maturity could be another word for childhood stolen politely. My grandmother Ruth saw it. She lived 2 streets away in a small yellow house with flowers along the fence and a kitchen that smelled like pepper, onions, and warm bread. When I cried there, she did not rush me. She let me sit. Then she fed me. Then she said things that stayed in my bones. One afternoon, after my parents made me give my laptop to Marcus because he needed it more for college applications, I sat at her table furious and silent. Grandma Ruth placed a plate in front of me and said, "Naomi, being generous is holy. Being emptied is not." I looked at her. What if they need me? Then they should respect the well they keep drawing from. I did not understand fully then. But she did. She always did. When I got into college, my parents were proud but practical. Practical meant I had to choose the cheaper school. Marcus had already spent much of the family education savings failing in 2 different programs. My father said, "We have to be realistic." I was realistic. I worked, studied, took buses, shared rooms, ate noodles, graduated with honors, got a job in financial systems for healthcare companies, then moved into consulting, then technology operations, then business transformation. I was good at seeing where money leaked, where systems failed, where people hid incompetence behind confident language. Maybe because I had grown up inside a family that did exactly that. My career grew slowly at first, then quickly. By 30, I was earning more than anyone in my family ever had. By 33, I started my own consulting firm, Bennett ClearPath Solutions. By 35, after a major hospital network contract changed everything, I bought the house. The house was not my first dream. Peace was. But houses look like peace when you have grown up in cramped rooms where every wall carries someone else's need. It had 5 bedrooms, a library, a garden, tall windows, and a kitchen large enough for every family gathering my mother had ever wanted. I imagined birthdays there, Christmas dinners, my parents resting, Marcus's children running through the yard, my mother finally looking at me without worry, my father saying, "You did well," not because he needed money, just because he saw me. For the first few months, it almost worked. My mother cried when she first walked through the front door. "Naomi," she whispered, "this is beautiful." My father touched the staircase railing and nodded like he was inspecting success. Marcus walked in and said, "You got all this for yourself." I laughed because I thought he was joking. He was not. At the housewarming, my mother gave a speech. "My daughter has always been strong," she said, raising her glass. "She has made us proud." People clapped. I cried. Not because the words were perfect, because I was so hungry for them that I did not notice how carefully they avoided love. Strong, proud, successful, useful words, but not soft ones. After I bought the house, my family's requests increased. At first small. Mom needed help with medical bills. Dad needed help replacing his car. Marcus needed a short-term loan. Then bigger. Marcus's business rent, his payroll, his tax issue, his children's school fees, my parents' home renovation, a family vacation because your father has worked all his life, a church donation in the Bennett family name, a new SUV for my mother because it is safer. I paid. Not always, but often enough that no began to sound like betrayal when I tried it. Every Thanksgiving, Christmas, Easter, birthday, and anniversary moved to my house. My mother loved hosting there. Or rather, she loved being seen hosting there. She would stand in my kitchen giving directions like it belonged to her. "Naomi, move the flowers to the other side." "Naomi, tell the caterer to warm the rice." "Naomi, Marcus likes the bigger chair." "Naomi, your father should sit at the head." At the head. In my house. At my table. Paid for by my work. But I said nothing. Because peace. Because family. Because maybe next time they would notice. Grace noticed. Grace was my best friend and chief financial officer. She had known me since college and had very little patience for my family's emotional accounting. One evening after a Christmas dinner, she helped me clear plates while Marcus and my father watched basketball in the living room, and my mother took photos near the tree. Grace looked at the dishes and said, "Why are you catering your own exploitation?" I almost dropped a plate. Grace. What? They're my family. Yes, I recognized them from the way they sat down while you worked. I sighed. Don't start. I didn't start it. Your mother did when she asked you to pay the caterer and then criticized the seasoning. I looked toward the living room. They love me. Grace softened. I know you need to believe that. That sentence hurt. I was angry at her for 3 days. Then Marcus asked for $20,000, and my mother said, "Naomi, you know he cannot ask anyone else." I sent it. Grace said nothing. That was worse. Over the years, my $1 million house became less a home and more a family service center. People slept there, ate there, borrowed from there, hosted there, took photos there, stored things there. My mother kept extra dresses in the guest room closet. Marcus stored business files in my garage without asking. My father invited friends over to watch games in my theater room when I was traveling. I found out from Instagram. When I complained, my father said, "Naomi, don't be territorial. It is only a house." Only a house. But when guests praised it, he said, "The Bennett family has been blessed." The Bennett family. Not Naomi. Never just Naomi. I stayed because leaving the role felt like losing the last thread, tying me to them. I had no husband then. No children. I had relationships, but none lasted long. Partly because I worked too much. Partly because I did not know how to receive love without turning myself into a solution. Partly because I kept choosing people who needed rescuing and calling it connection. My mother worried about that publicly. Privately, I later learned, she mocked it. That hurt more than anything. Because she knew. She knew I wanted partnership. She knew I had cried after a broken engagement at 32. She knew I sometimes felt lonely in that big house. And she used that loneliness as the place to place the knife. The forgotten phone call happened on a Thursday night in November. Marcus's latest business had failed. Again. This time it was a luxury meal delivery platform that burned cash faster than it delivered meals. He owed vendors, staff, and a private lender who was not patient. My parents called it a crisis. Grace called it a subscription. I told myself I would not help. Then my mother called crying. Then my father said Marcus might lose everything. Then Marcus sent a message saying he was ashamed and could not face me. That worked. Shame worked on me because I knew what shame felt like. I told my mother yes. Then she forgot to hang up. And I heard everything. After I ended the call, I did not sleep. I walked through the house room by room. Guest room 1. My mother's dresses in the closet. Guest room 2. Toys Marcus's children left behind. The media room. My father's favorite blanket folded over the recliner. The garage. Marcus's boxes. The dining room. Family photos. The kitchen. Broken cup still in the sink. Everywhere I looked, I saw evidence of people who used the house and pitied the woman who owned it. By 4:00 a.m., I sat in the library with Grandma Ruth's old Bible in my lap, though I had not opened it. Her words came back. Being generous is holy. Being emptied is not. At 6:30, I called Grace. She answered like she had been awake already. What happened? My mother forgot to hang up. Silence. Then, how bad? I told her. Every word. Loser. Lonely. Useful. Trophy house. Sell it and help family. Grace did not interrupt. When I finished, she said, I am coming over. An hour later, she walked in with coffee, a notebook, and the look she got when feelings needed spreadsheets. She hugged me first. Hard. Then said, now we make a plan. I don't know what I want. Yes, you do. I looked around the library. I want out of this house. Grace nodded slowly. Say more. I bought it for them to see me. They don't. They see rooms, access, money, a stage. I don't want to live inside a question I keep asking people who already answered. Grace's eyes softened. Then sell it. The words landed. Sell it. The same thing Marcus had joked about. The same thing my father said might not be bad. But not to give them the money. To free myself. I looked around the room again. The shelves. The windows. The heavy curtains. The expensive rug. For years, I had believed selling the house would mean admitting failure. Now it felt like admitting truth. This house is not my home, I whispered. Grace nodded. No, it's their proof of your usefulness. I cried then. Not loudly. Just enough. Then I called Vivian Hart. Vivian was my attorney, and she had been waiting for the day I stopped treating boundaries like optional furniture. When I told her what happened, she said, I'm sorry, also finally. Vivian. I contain multitudes. We listed everything. Cancel Marcus's transfer. Change all house access codes. Remove family garage access. Collect belongings by appointment only. Pause all family support payments pending review. Audit past transfers. Secure financial accounts. Prepare the house for sale confidentially. Create communication boundaries. No phone calls except scheduled. No emergency money without written request and review. No family events at the house. No surprise visits. Vivian called it basic adult boundary infrastructure. Grace called it eviction from Naomi's nervous system. I called the realtor that afternoon. Her name was Denise Carter. She had sold 2 homes for my colleagues and had a reputation for privacy, speed, and telling rich people their furniture was ugly without blinking. She walked through the house with me 2 days later. This is a beautiful property, she said. Yes. But you don't love it. I looked at her. How can you tell? You haven't touched anything since we entered. People who love houses touch counters, railings, door frames. You are walking through like it belongs to someone who hurt you. I almost cried again. That's accurate. She nodded. We can sell it. How long? If priced properly, quickly. But Naomi, are you sure? I looked toward the dining room, where my father always sat at the head. Yes. The house went on the market quietly. No big announcement. No family discussion. Private listing first. Qualified buyers only. Meanwhile, I sent my mother one message. I heard what you said after you forgot to hang up. Marcus's payment is canceled. I will not discuss it further tonight. She replied immediately. Naomi, please let me explain. Then, baby, I was upset. Then, you misunderstood. Then, your father wants to talk. Then, please don't do this to your brother. Not one message said, I am sorry I called you a loser. That told me everything. My father called. I did not answer. Marcus called. Blocked. My mother arrived at the gate that evening. The code had changed. She called from outside, crying. Naomi, why won't the gate open? I stood inside near the front window, watching her through the camera. Because I changed the code. This is my daughter's house. Yes, my house. Baby, please, I'm outside. I know. Let me in. No. She stared at the camera. No, no. Her face crumpled. I am your mother. And I am the loser where it really matters, remember. She covered her mouth. Naomi, I didn't mean it. You meant it when you thought I wasn't listening. My father stepped into view beside her. Open the gate. No. His face hardened. This is childish. No. Childish was laughing with Marcus after asking me for $42,000. He pointed toward the house. That house has made you arrogant. I looked at the screen. No, Dad, that house made you comfortable. He flinched. My mother cried harder. Can we please come in and talk? No. Where are we supposed to go? I almost laughed. They had driven from their own house. But my home had become so available that being denied entry felt like displacement. Go home, I said. Then I ended the camera feed. They stayed outside for 20 minutes. Then left. I cried after. Grace came over and slept in the guest room, but not the one my mother used. The next week became war by guilt. Aunt Linda called. Naomi, your mother is sick with worry. Did she tell you what she said? She said there was a misunderstanding. I sent her the audio. Yes. The call had recorded automatically because my phone connected through my work system. I did not even know until Vivian checked. Not every word was crystal clear, but enough. Aunt Linda called back 20 minutes later. Her voice was different. Baby, I am sorry. Thank you. She should not have said that. No. And your father. I know. Aunt Linda sighed. Protect yourself. I am. Family members started dividing into groups. Some said I was overreacting. Some said my mother made a mistake. Some said Marcus's debt was not my responsibility anyway. Some said selling the house was dramatic. That rumor started because my mother somehow found out. Probably from my father's friend, who knew someone in real estate. She called me in panic. You're selling the house. Yes. Why would you do that? Because I don't want it anymore. This is because of what I said. Yes. Naomi, people say things. People also reveal things. My mother sobbed. But this house is where we gather. No, this house is where I disappear while everyone gathers. She went quiet. Then whispered, don't sell it to punish us. I'm selling it to free me. She did not understand. Not then. My father understood enough to get angry. He sent an email. Selling the house is financially reckless and emotionally immature. You are destabilizing the family because of one overheard conversation. Marcus is in serious trouble. You are choosing pride over blood. Vivian helped me reply. I am not responsible for Marcus's debts or the family's emotional dependence on my property. Please arrange pickup of any personal items by Friday through Grace. Future financial requests should be made in writing and may not be approved. My father replied, this is not the daughter we raised. I wrote back myself. I know. Then blocked email notifications. The offer came 3 weeks later. A family from out of state. Full price. Cash. Flexible closing. Denise called me. Naomi, this is a strong offer. I sat in the library. The house was quiet. No guests. No mother rearranging flowers. No Marcus walking in without knocking. No father at the head of the table. Just silence. Accept it, I said. You don't want a night to think. I've spent years thinking. We accepted. Closing was set for 30 days. That gave my family 1 month to understand that the stage was truly disappearing. Marcus arrived one afternoon with a moving truck. Not for his boxes. For my furniture. The security guard called me. Ms. Bennett, A man claiming to be your brother says he is here to collect family property. I checked the camera. Marcus stood beside a truck, arms folded, looking angry and entitled. I called Vivian. She said, "Lovely, I was bored." Then she called security with instructions. Marcus called me from a new number. "Naomi, stop playing. Mom said some of the furniture should stay in the family." I almost laughed. "Which furniture?" "The dining table, the theater chairs, some guest room sets, the big mirror, and Dad wants the grill." "The grill?" "Don't be petty. You're selling the house anyway." "Marcus, leave my property." "You don't need all this." "There it is." "What?" "You don't need, therefore Marcus can take." He snapped. "You're acting crazy over things." "No, I'm acting sane over patterns." He lowered his voice. "You think selling this house makes you powerful. You're still alone." The words hit. But not like before. Because now I understood something. Being alone in a house where no one mocks you is better than being surrounded by people who need you and despise you. I said, "Maybe, but I'd rather be alone than used." Then I hung up. Security escorted him away. He posted online that evening. "Money changes people. Family shows who was real before the mansion." Grace sent me a screenshot. I replied with one word. "Boring." She sent laughing emojis. The final family confrontation happened 1 week before closing. My mother begged for a meeting. I refused twice, then agreed on 3 conditions. At Vivian's office. Recorded. Grace present. No Marcus. My parents arrived looking like they had aged years in 1 month. My mother's eyes were swollen. My father's anger had cooled into something heavier. Shame, maybe. They sat across from me. Vivian sat beside me. Grace near the window. For a long moment, nobody spoke. Then my mother said, "I am sorry." I waited. Vivian did not move. My mother swallowed. "For calling you a loser." The words entered the room. Finally, my chest tightened. She continued. "For laughing, for saying you were desperate for us to need you, for using your loneliness as something to mock after benefiting from your home, for asking you for money while thinking so little of your heart." Tears filled my eyes. That was the first real apology. My father looked at the table. My mother kept going. I was jealous. I blinked. "What?" She covered her face briefly, then lowered her hands. "I was jealous of your house, your success, your independence, and ashamed because I enjoyed them too. I liked being seen as the mother of the woman who owned that home, but I also resented that you had built what I never did." The honesty shocked me. Ugly. Painful. But honest. She cried. "So I made it smaller in private. I made you smaller. I said the house was all you had because I wanted to believe your success had not made you bigger than the life I taught you to accept." I sat very still. My father closed his eyes. My mother whispered, "I am sorry." I nodded slowly. "I hear you." Then I looked at my father. He cleared his throat. "I am sorry too." "For what specifically?" He stiffened at the question, then softened. "For saying being lonely became useful, for letting Marcus mock you, for treating your house as a family asset, for sitting at the head of your table like I own the room, for calling you arrogant when you stopped giving, for asking more of you because Marcus failed more." That last one did something to me, because it named the whole system. I wiped my face. "Why?" My father looked at me. "Because helping him made me feel like I had not failed him. And taking from me." He swallowed. "Felt easier because you always survived it." There it was. The family math. Marcus failed, so he received. Naomi survived, so she was charged. I said, my survival was not consent. My father's eyes filled. I know that now. My mother reached for my hand, then stopped. May I? I looked at her hand, then said, not today. She nodded and pulled back. Progress. Then she asked the question I knew was coming. Are you still selling the house? Yes. She cried, but quietly. Where will you go? I bought another place. Their eyes widened. What kind of place? My father asked. I smiled faintly. A smaller one, with a studio, a garden, and no guest wing. My mother flinched. Good. The absence of a guest wing said what I did not need to. You won't host Christmas, she whispered. No. Ever. Not this year. My father nodded slowly. And Marcus? What about him? His debt? No. My mother closed her eyes. He may lose the business. Then he will finally meet reality without my money blocking the introduction. Grace coughed to hide a laugh. Vivian did not bother hiding her smile. My parents left without asking again. That was new. Closing day came on a Friday. I walked through the house one last time alone. The rooms echoed now. Furniture sold, donated, or moved. Walls bare. No family photos. No extra dresses. No business boxes. No head of table throne. Just space. I stood in the kitchen, where the phone call had played through the speaker. For a long time, I listened to the silence. Then I said out loud, "Thank you for showing me." Not to the house exactly. To the moment. To the forgotten call. To the broken cup. To the truth. Denise met me at the title office. I signed the documents. The $1 million house became someone else. And I felt lighter than I had in years. My new home was not small. It was still beautiful. But it was mine in a different way. 3 bedrooms. A garden. A writing room. A kitchen with warm wooden shelves. No oversized dining table. No guest wing. No theater room. No rooms built for people who did not love me well. I did not tell my family the address for 6 months. At first, my mother cried about that. Then she began to understand it was not punishment. It was protection. Marcus lost his business 2 months after I refused the money. He blamed me publicly, then privately, then loudly, then no one. Because without my money, the failure could finally be seen as his. My parents did not rescue him either. Not because they suddenly became strong. Because they could not. And because, for the first time, I was not available to make their guilt disappear. Marcus got a regular job in sales. He hated it, then needed it, then slowly became less dramatic because workplaces do not care that your sister once paid your debts. 1 year after the phone call, Marcus asked to meet. I said no. 2 years later, he asked again. This time, his message was different. I am not asking for money. I want to apologize for what I said when I thought you couldn't hear us. I met him at Vivian's office. Old habits. Safe rooms. He looked older. Less polished. More tired. He sat across from me and said, "I'm sorry." For what specifically? He looked down. For laughing. For saying you needed to feel important. For using your money and calling you desperate. For saying your house should be used for family. For showing up with a truck. For calling you alone like it made me better than you. That last one mattered. He continued. I was jealous, not of the house, of the fact that you built something real. Everything I had came through begging, pressure, or mom and dad. I hated that you could stand without them. I listened. Not soft, but open. He said, losing the business was humiliating, but it also proved you weren't the reason I failed. No, I said. I was the reason you failed later than you should have. He laughed once painfully. Yeah. I nodded. I hear you. Can we be family again? We are family. The question is whether we can become safe. He nodded slowly. I'll try. Trying means no money conversations. I know. No jokes about my house, life, relationship status, or loneliness. I know. No using mom to reach me. I know. Good. It was not a reunion. It was a beginning with locks. My parents changed too, slowly. My mother went to therapy after Brianna told her, "You lost access to your daughter because you made her success your stage and her loneliness your gossip." I wish I had seen my mother's face when she heard that. Actually, maybe not. Therapy made her more honest. One afternoon, she called and asked, "May I visit you at a cafe?" Not my house. A cafe. Good. We met. She brought no gifts. No requests. No tears at first. She said, "I am learning that I used crying to avoid accountability." I nearly dropped my tea. That is very specific. She smiled sadly. My therapist is expensive. Worth it. She laughed. Then cried. But differently. I don't know how to love you without needing something from you, she admitted. That sentence hurt and healed at the same time. I said, then learn by needing nothing today. So we sat. Talked. About small things. Food. Weather. Brianna's new job. My garden. No money. No Marcus. No house. At the end, she said, "Thank you for seeing me." I looked at her. Now you know why it matters. She nodded. My father apologized in actions more than words. He stopped sitting at the head of tables unless it was his own. He corrected a cousin, once who said I was too sensitive. He said, "No, we were too comfortable taking from her." Aunt Linda told me. I cried when I heard. Later, he asked if he could come see my new home. I said not yet. He said, "I understand." And for once, he did not push. After 3 years, I invited my parents to dinner. Not Christmas. Not Thanksgiving. Not a big family gathering. Just dinner. My mother stood at the door holding flowers and asked, "May we come in?" That question alone almost made me cry. Yes. She stepped inside slowly. My father followed. They looked around. My mother smiled. "This feels like you." I swallowed. "Thank you." No one asked where they would sleep. No one opened closets. No one sat at the head because the table was round. I chose it on purpose. We ate stew, rice, and roasted vegetables. My father helped clear the plates. My mother washed cups. I let her. At one point, she looked out at the garden and said, "I understand why you sold the other house." I looked at her. "Do you?" She nodded. It was too full of us. That was the cleanest sentence she had ever spoken about it. "Yes," I said. She touched the counter gently. "This one has room for you." I cried. So did she. Not everything healed that night. But something rested. I used the money from the house sale differently. Part went into investments. Part to charity. Part to a project I created called the Well House Fund, named after Grandma Ruth's warning about respecting the well. The fund supported women who had become the financial backbone of families that mocked, drained, or emotionally manipulated them. We helped with therapy, legal planning, financial boundaries, housing transitions, and emergency exit plans for women who needed to leave homes that had become family banks. Grace helped design the financial tools. Vivian taught boundaries and documentation. My mother, years later, asked to volunteer. I said no at first. Then yes, but only after training. Her first task was setting up chairs. Not speaking. Not advising. Chairs. She did it. Quietly, that mattered. At one workshop, a woman stood up and said, "My family says I'm selfish because I won't pay my brother's debt." My mother looked down. I watched her. After the session, she came to me with tears in her eyes. "I heard myself in her mother," she whispered. And I was ashamed. "Good." She nodded. "Yes, good. Growth. Painful but real." The story of the forgotten phone call became something I shared publicly only years later. I did not use my family's names. I did not need to. I stood on a stage at a women's financial wellness conference and said, "One night my mother forgot to hang up. I heard her call me a loser while discussing how to use my money. The next month, I sold the house I had bought hoping my family would finally see me. That sale was not loss. It was recovery." The room went silent. Then women started crying. Not because of my house. Because so many of them had their own version. A car. A business. A guest room. A monthly transfer. A parent's medical bill. A brother's debt. A sister's rent. A family event. A table where they paid for the food, but never got served respect. Afterward, a woman came up to me and said, "I think my house is not my home either." I held her hands. "You know what to do when you are ready." She nodded. That is why I tell the story. Not because I hate my family. I do not. I love them with boundaries now. That love is smaller in access, but healthier in truth. My mother no longer has a key to my home. She has an invitation when I choose. My father no longer sits at the head of my table. He sits where the place card says. Marcus no longer receives emergency money. He receives birthday calls and honest conversation. Brianna and I became close because she was the first to say, "They were wrong," without asking me to soften the sentence. Grace remains my emergency contact. Vivian remains the person my family fears and secretly respects. And me. I no longer live in a house built for people I hoped would love me better if the rooms were large enough. I live in a home that fits my peace. My mother forgot to hang up. I heard her call me a loser. So I sold my $1 million home. But the real thing I sold was not brick, glass, and garden space. I sold the fantasy that success could buy tenderness from people committed to using me. I sold the stage where they performed pride while practicing pity. I sold the dining room where my father sat like an owner. I sold the guest rooms that had become symbols of access without respect. I sold the version of myself that believed being needed was close enough to being cherished. And with that money, I bought distance. Quiet. A round table. A smaller guest list. A new life. If you are listening, and you are the one your family calls when everything breaks, hear me clearly. You are not an emergency fund with a heartbeat. You are not a guest room with a bank account. You are not proof that your parents raised successful children while they privately mock the cost of your loneliness. You are not obligated to keep funding people who laugh when they think the phone is off. Listen to what people say when they forget you are present. Believe the pattern. Check the access. Cancel the transfer. Change the code. Sell the house if you must. Not to punish them. To return yourself to yourself. Because sometimes the house you built to prove you are worthy becomes the house you must leave to remember you always were. My name is Naomi Bennett. I once owned $1 million home full of people who needed me. Now I own a quieter home full of peace. And peace, I learned, is worth more than every room I sold.